Good evening, everyone. It is the 13th of May. I am coming to you here. It is another episode here of Political Theater with Charles Nash. So, we're going to get down to some topics here today. Tonight, we're going to kind of cover some things that have been going on here in the news. A lot of big things have happened here in the last, I'd say 48 hours or so. So we're going to get into it here. And I want everyone to know I'm starting to fight some allergies here. So if I'm clearing my voice, I apologize. So first thing we're going to get into, this comes from an open letter. This is seen on Business Insider. I've picked this up also because this was, and a lot of major news networks didn't cover this, but you had a lot of, small sources that did, but this made some headlines. I know it was mentioned by Glenn Beck, and some other networks. But as an open letter from the retired generals and admirals here in the United States. It was posted on May the 11th of this year. And I want to read some of this to any viewers that are watching this to get an idea of what is going on and what we're up against. And I've got some other things, but we're going to correlate with this open letter. So I'm going to go ahead and just open here with the opening of this. It says, "Our nation is in deep peril. We are in a fight for our survival as a constitutional republic like no other time since our founding in 1776. The conflict between supporters of socialism and Marxism versus supporters of the constitutional freedom and liberty. During the 2020 election, an open letter from from senior military leaders was signed by 317 retired generals and admirals. And in it, it said the election of 2020 could be the most important election since our country was founded. With the Democratic Party welcoming socialists and Marxists, our historic way of life is at stake. Unfortunately, that statement true was quickly revealed, beginning with the election process itself. Without fair and honest elections, the autocracy reflects of the will of the American people. Our constitutional republic is lost. The election integrity depends ensuring that there is one legal vote cast and counted per citizen. Legal votes are identified by states' legislators' approved controls using government IDs, verified signatures, etc. Today, many are calling for such common sense controls racist in an attempt to avoid having a fair and honest election system. Using radical terms to suppress proof of eligibility is itself a tyrannical intimidation tactic. Accidentally, the rule of law must be enforced in our election process to ensure integrity. The FBI and the Supreme Court must act swiftly when election irregularities are surfaced and not ignore them, as was done in the 2020 election. Finally, H.R. 1 and S1, if passed, would destroy the election fairness and allow Democrats to forever remain in power, violating the Constitution and ending our representative republic. Aside from the election, the current administration has launched a full-blown assault on our constitutional rights in a dictatorial manner, bypassing the Congress, with more than 50 executive orders quickly signed, many reversing the previous administration's effective policies and regulations. Moreover, population control actions such as executive lockdowns, schools and business closures, most alarming, censorship of written and verbal expression, are all direct assaults on the fundamental rights and Constitution. We must support and hold accountable politicians who will act to counter socialism, Marxism, and progressivism, support our constitutional republic, and insist on fiscally responsible governing while focusing on all Americans, especially the middle class, not special interest or extremist groups, which are used to divide us into warring factions. Additional national security issues and actions. Open borders jeopardize our national security by increasing human trafficking, drug cartels, terrorists, health, COVID-19 dangers, and humanitarian crises. Illegals are flooding our country, bringing high economic costs, crime, lowering wages, and illegal voting in some states. We must reestablish the border controls and continue building the wall while supporting our dedicated border control personnel. Sovereign actions must be controlled. China is the greatest external threat to America. Establishing cooperative relations with the Chinese Communist Party enables them to continue progress towards world domination, military, economically, politically, and technologically. We must impose more sanctions and regulations to impede their world domination goal and protect American assets and interests. The free flow of information is critical to the security of the Republic, as illustrated by the freedom of speech and the press, being in the First Amendment of the Constitution, censoring speech and expression, distorting speech, spreading disinformation by the government officials, private entities, and the media is a method to suppress the free flow of information, a tyrannical technique used in closed societies. We must counter this on all fronts, beginning with removing Sanction 230 protection from big tech. Reemerging in a flawed Iran nuclear deal would result in Iran requiring a nuclear weapon along with means to deliver them, thereby upsetting the Middle East peace interactives and initiatives, aiding a terrorist nation whose slogans and goals include death to America, death to Israel. We must resist the new Chinese-Iran agreement and not support the Iran nuclear deal. In addition, continue with Middle East peace initiatives and support for Israel. Stopping the Keystone Pipeline eliminates our recently established energy independence causes. Being independent for energy from other nations not friendly to us, while eliminating vulnerable U.S. jobs, we must open the Keystone Pipeline and regain our energy dependence from national security and economic reasons. Folks, I am reading to you a it continues on, and it has every name of every current general and admiral, retired and present, in the armed forces as we stand right now. This was put out on May the 11th of 2021. This is a large list of everything that is wrong and going on in our country right now. And there's plenty of this that can be seen. I'm reading this tonight because I had mentioned this before in one of my previous podcasts, talking about, what was going on with our school systems with the critical race theory. And not only do we have an attack going on with the education system, we now have an administration and a government that is, like I've said before, they are tearing down the fundamentals of our military, our rights. You see the attack on the police. And this is a scary issue. And now we actually have, and that's what I was reading to everyone, we actually have high brass within and retired from all branches of the government. It's signed stating that this current administration is basically destroying this country. And there's evidence of it all around besides just this letter, folks. I mean, it's all over the place. Look at the economic attack that the Biden administration is letting happen on on the American public. I mean, let's take a look at the most recent thing that's happened right now. The most recent thing that happened right now is the attack on the gas lines. We have hackers from Russia hacking the pipelines for the East Coast. And what happens? Well, I can tell you what happens, folks. So yesterday, the pipeline system came back online. And they said that there was no ransoms paid to this Russian hacking group known as DarkSide. That there was nothing paid. That they amazingly got this bypassed and was able to get the system back online. Well, then it came out today. That the company paid $5 million in cryptocurrency to a non-trackable account to these individuals overseas that hacked the gas line. I don't know about anybody else. I just gotta say this, and this is why it ties into everything that went with that letter there. When did the United States start dealing with terrorists? We have never dealt with terrorists. We've put a bullet in their head. We've told them to go pound sand. We've blown them up. We've done everything but ever negotiate with terrorists. Well, apparently now we negotiate with terrorists. Not only do we negotiate with terrorists, we go back into deals like the Iran nuclear deal like they're doing right now. And I don't know. We start telling them our allies, top secret missions like John Kerry going into a meeting with the Iranian ambassador and telling him all about Israelis' secret goings on in another foreign country and with the United States. So we're dealing with rogue nations and terrorists now. Now, I am a very, very proud veteran. I served in the military. I'm glad that I served in the military. I wanted to give back to the country. And that's not me, folks, tooting my own horn. That's me making a statement that I'm proud, and I still very much am, of myself for serving and anyone else that is serving this country. I don't care if you're in the military. I don't care if you're a police officer, a firefighter, the Coast Guard, border security. I don't care. I'm proud of every one of you. Your families and friends. This country owes you a great deal of gratitude for what you do every day. And don't let anyone ever tell you that you don't. But there's one thing with all of us that we all have in common. We don't deal with terrorists. We don't deal with countries, rogue nations, that are out to kill us. And under this current administration, that's what we have going on. And I wanted to get on and do this podcast tonight, and I wanted to read that letter from all those top brass that signed that. And it was sent to the White House. And it was sent to every major news network. They just never ran on it. I wonder why. That letter talked about a lot of things. And folks, I could have went on for another 8 minutes with that letter. It talked about China being one of the number one threats to this country. They are. We're just now coming out. It's coming out now. Very in-depth coverage of, well, let's just say, it's not even COVID-19, the Wuhan flu. That COVID-19 came from a Wuhan lab. You have scientists that are pressing Dr. Fauci and the U.S. government for their role in biovirus engineering with Wuhan lab. And they're denying it every step of the way. Folks, documents don't lie. Doctors coming out that worked on these projects are saying, yeah, this happened. They're not lying to make any money. If anything, they're losing credibility. They have more to lose than to gain. If that doesn't scare the bejesus out of people, I don't know what shouldn't at this point. You know, everyone around the world is so, over the last 40 years or longer, has been so preoccupied about nuclear war and nuclear proliferation. We're never going to have a nuclear war because everyone knows that's end game, folks. There's nothing to gain off a nuclear war. Now the new big thing is bioweaponry. It's like something that you're watching out of a Resident Evil movie with the evil Umbrella Corporation. And I know people laugh when I say that or you see it in movies, but folks, that's what we're getting into now in the 21st century. Biochemical warfare. Don't you find it funny that when the virus broke out, they quarantined off Wuhan, China did. But yet, instead of quarantining off everyone in that zone, that red zone, what did they do? They still allowed people, not into China, no, they couldn't go in the rest of China, but everywhere else, if they wanted to fly out, they could. What does that say, folks? When you have China dealing with Iran and Russia right now, and other countries like Yemen doing a proxy war over there, what do you think is going to happen? Or China over in, places like Africa and third world countries, and they're pouring money into those areas and building up influence in those regions? What do you think they're doing? Or how about this? How about the Chinese government building islands, military installation, building islands, taking dirt and sand and land and dumping it into the ocean to create artificial islands? If that doesn't scare people, I don't know again what wouldn't. Getting back to that letter, it was talking about even what's going on here in the United States. Our own government devaluing the dollar to the point where, like I've said before, I take the $23 trillion that we're already in debt and add another 19 to that. Folks, there ain't no coming back from that. And now they're wanting to add more money for this infrastructure plan, between 4 to 6 trillion. The government, the federal government, is taking their own debt and they're buying it and then printing more money. How, at what point do you say we're going to be able to come back from that? We're spending ourselves into oblivion. And I want to make sure that everyone understands what this means. You do know, and maybe people don't get this, what happens when we devalue the dollar so much? What happens to the dollar? What happens to the United States? Well, I've got the answer for everyone for that. We lose financial standings. And once we lose the global financial standing, heaven forbid us, folks, we're going to be just like Mexico or North Korea. That's what's going to happen. We're going to become a third world country. It's heading that way. And I've said this before. You hear it all the time on the radio and TV. Buy gold and silver. There isn't enough precious metals to stop what's coming. There just isn't. There's not enough precious metals to stop what's coming. And I could preach this all day long. Another thing that was in that letter, which should be taken very serious, that it states that the government and the administration and the FBI is trying to cut down on people's freedoms, freedom of speech, the right to media, to assemble. So let's take a hard look at that. What does that say? Well, let's look at COVID. One person off a computer-generated model over in Europe was the person who got this whole thing with this pandemic rolling. Some geek that lived in his parents' basement. And what did he say? Well, I put this number in and it came up with millions of people are going to die and millions of people are going to be lost worldwide. We gotta shut down everything. And what do? One person under a computer simulation, folks. Look it up. A computer simulation. It wasn't even in our own country. It was over in Europe. And what happened? Everyone lost their frickin' minds. And if you can't tell, I'm in a little bit of a mood tonight. Everyone lost their minds. And everyone went on total panic and lockdown. And what did it get us? A self-inflicting wound. That's still, in my opinion, I don't think it's even healed. If anything, I think the cut is become infected and is even worse. Now today, out of, after what, almost a year and a half now, today I said O'Biden, but you might as well say that's what it is. The Biden administration came out today, and what did our grand president say today? Well, if I can remember what day it is, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. This is a great day for America. But just remember, that's only if you got the vaccination. And if you haven't got the vaccination, well, you got to put that mask on, America. Here we go. We're never going to get back to normal, folks. I hate being the negative Nancy. We're never going to get back. There is never going to be a normal ever again. It's gone. It's gone. Until people start waking up and start working from the lowest end up, it's never going to get back to normal. These people are out to destroy this country, and that's what this whole entire letter was addressing. And when you have retired and current, military officials who that's their job, is to protect and uphold the Constitution of the United States. When they are ringing the alarm bell, you better listen, folks. They spelled out everything in a very large letter there of what's going on. And it's just not about losing your freedoms temporarily. Benjamin Franklin made a very good comment. He said that if you give up, if you give in to fear, and give up some of your freedoms because of that fear, you're basically, you're never going to get them back. I remember the very famous line, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. But people have forgotten that. People are so focused on a virus that they've lost all concept of what's going on. I'm gonna go ahead and just say this. I don't like bringing in people in my family or people that I love or care about or know or work with, but I'm gonna bring this up. I have had not just my wife. I have had very close colleagues, friends, people that I don't even know have met for the first time off the street who have happened to catch this podcast say to me, I am so tired of people saying to me that if I don't get vaccinated, that I'm a terrible person, that I'm going to end up killing someone. You're not going to kill anyone. And if someone is saying that, then they need to have their head examined. For starters, you don't control a virus. You don't control bacteria. You don't control any of that. And for the dummies that's out there who's saying, well, yeah, you're going to kill somebody if you're not vaccinated, that's just on you. You're an idiot. Viruses don't just pick and choose who they want to on any given whim. Small businesses that's been closed down that are now opening and letting people in, and you've got these dumbass bureaucrats coming in there saying, shut them down. You're not abiding by the COVID restrictions. You're going to give COVID to someone. It's past 10 o'clock. We told you you can't drink. Everyone here could have COVID. COVID doesn't care about that. COVID doesn't walk into a bar and go, oh, well, it's past 10 o'clock. All these people here at the bar, you're infected now. It doesn't work like that. Putting plexiglass up, and you've heard me say this before, doesn't do a damn thing. COVID just doesn't look at the plexiglass and go, yeah, we're airborne. I can't get around that. Oh, see that ventilation system? I can't go in there. If you're around plexiglass, I can't go through. It doesn't work like that. So today, the CDC came out not only with Joe Biden in his speech today about you can stop wearing a mask if you're vaccinated. What did the CDC come out and say today? The CDC came out and followed the same thing. Well, yeah, you can stop wearing a mask if you've been vaccinated or if you're outside. Now, wait a minute. Wait, just a minute. Isn't this the same CDC who said when you're outside, you have to wear a mask and you have to social distance because if you're outside in a gathering, you're going to be a super spreader? What happened with that? Do you see how it doesn't make sense, folks? People are just picking and choosing whatever the hell they want to say to somebody. Next, it's going to be, well, if you wear the color pink, you can't get COVID. If you touch somebody's left nipple, you won't get COVID. If you're outside and you're by someone that's got brown hair and freckles, you're safe from COVID. This is the type of crap that I've been listening to for a year and a half now since this whole pandemic started. A bunch of garbage. Garbage. And if you turn to every damn news network, which I don't even watch anymore, not even the good ones, you hear the same crap. I don't know about anybody else. I'm just frankly sick and tired of it. Then yesterday, This also came out with the CDC, with their guidelines. And what was their guidelines yesterday? It changed from yesterday to today. Yesterday it was, well, we don't think 6-foot distancing is the magic number to stop with the fight of COVID. We think now you got to be a little bit further away, maybe 8 to 9 feet. This was out yesterday, while Dr. Fauci was getting ripped in Congress for having associations with labs in the United States working with Wuhan over in China. And these are the people that we call our scientific experts. You know, I've come to the conclusion now that if anyone just goes out and just walks out somewhere and goes, well, I'm a doctor, doesn't mean they have to be a doctor or that they are one or they have a degree. If someone just goes, I'm a doctor, you got to do this. Everyone goes, oh, yeah, he said he's a doctor. No one even checks for credentials anymore. No one even checks to see if these people even know what the hell they're talking about. I could bet you I could get better information on the COVID-19 virus talking to a janitor who cleans bathroom stalls than Dr. Fauci or any of these other medical experts that say they're experts in COVID-19. I brung everybody a whole episode about masks. You seen what masks really do over the last 2,000 years that masks have been on Earth. And I broke it down step by step. If you haven't seen it, please go online and look at my archive. It's on there. So getting back to this letter, what else was in this letter? Oh, I know. The destabilization of our court systems and our federal and state rule of law. So what do we have right now under this current administration? We have an administration that doesn't want to back law enforcement. Oh, they back law enforcement. Don't get me wrong here. But their law enforcement is, well, if it's someone of a different ethnicity or color, well, you got to watch what you're doing because it's probably a racist cop. That's not how this works. And they are basically beating the law enforcement in this country to nothing. And that's why you have all these cops retiring. You have no new recruits coming in. You can't pay people to be cops anymore. Now, is there bad cops that's out there? Sure, there's bad cops out there. There's bad people in every job. I watched the other night, speaking of critical race, speaking of taking the law and turning it upside down and saying, we don't need police. I watched a video that's been circling all over the internet of a college student who had a meeting with his professor, who's a female, and she's foreign. I'm not attacking her because she's foreign. And another classmate debating if cops are heroes or not. And the teacher in this, the professor, basically states that all cops are bad. The student asked her, he said, well, what if, someone broke into your house and you didn't have a gun or a way to defend yourself? Would you call the cops? And her reply was, no, I wouldn't call the cops because I'm less safe with a cop. Are you kidding me? And through the whole video, not only was this student berated by his professor, it was all cops are bad. It was said more than once, all cops are bad. I really, watching that video, I wanted to jump in. I wanted to be able to jump in so bad at the time that was going on and be part of that conversation, because the student missed his cue. I would have probably looked at that professor and said, okay, well, let's take this rational, theory that you have that all cops are bad. Because, yes, there are some bad cops, but if you're going to make it so that everyone is labeled bad as a police officer, well, professor, we have bad teachers. We have teachers that molest students, have sex with underage minors. We have teachers that don't properly apply to the educational standards. We have rogue teachers that do drugs and get students on drugs. The list goes on and on. We have bad teachers. So because of that, are we going to do the same thing? Are we going to list all teachers as bad? It's stupid things like this that drive me up a wall. That we have so many people who have become woke or want to bitch about everything that we've lost total control of this country and what it was founded on and its basic common sense principles. But then I remind myself, you can't have freedom without dumb. And I have to remember that every day. It's kind of like someone saying you can't fix dumb. Because you can't. So getting back to this long letter, which covered a lot of things in it, and I'm just covering some of it. I'm not covering all of it. There's so much there that hits the nail on the coffin. And I say that because we're heading towards what I like to call the spiraling death roll of America, democracy. We can stop these things, but it is going to take people standing up. And are there people standing up? Yes, there is. There are people that are waking up slowly but surely. There's a gentleman farmer. I don't have the individual's name, but he is running, and he will be running, for the election here in Ohio when Governor Mike DeWine's term comes up. Folks, I will never vote for Governor Mike DeWine. That man has caused so much damage here in Ohio, it's not funny. I'm going to vote for this farmer. And I'm going to bring his name in further podcasts. I do not have it with me at this moment. I apologize. Regular individual. Running because he sees what's going on, not just in Ohio, but here in the United States. I talked about critical race theory here 2 weeks ago. What's going on in the schools. Folks, get out there. If you have children like me, get out there. I passionately tell people, get in there, find out what's going on in your schools. Talk to your teachers. If your teachers don't want to talk to you, talk to the school board. Get involved in the meetings. If you have things going on in there that you don't feel is right, and there's a lot of other parents that don't feel is right, get involved. Go in there. Run for school board. Get involved. Get the people out of there that's causing the problems. Same thing at the local level. Start from the bottom and work our way up. I don't care if you go out and you're trying to get dog catcher. Run for something. If you're an average person, you can't do any worse than the incompetence that's running this country right now. Get out. Do your job. Run for these office seats. school board seats. We can change things. We can change America back. It's going to take work. We can't let things go silently into the night. I did not join the military for 8 years to have this country go silently into the night by not the majority, because it ain't the majority. You've got a few individuals who manage to make their way to the top, and they're in powerful seats. But it can be changed. It can go back. I refuse to say that we're going to sit here and go silently into the night without a fight. I'm not telling people to go get their firearms or take to the streets. I'm not saying that. I'm not going to sit here and be blamed for inciting a riot or starting something like that. No, I'm not. I will say this comment that the worst things are going to get, you will have people that's going to do that. You will have a revolution that happens if this trend continues. You're seeing it with the way they're trying to take away people's gun rights. You're seeing it with the way they're trying to change the infrastructure. You're seeing how they're I mean, for God's sakes, the pipeline attack. They're saying more of this is going to happen to our electronicals. What next? What if someone hacks into our electric system? I mean, we already seen what they do now with the gas systems. What Joe Biden do? Yeah, we'll get to that. He couldn't even be asked. He had too many things going on. Not only here, hell, the Middle East is on fire again. Hell, Donald Trump brokered a peace deal, and that's fallen apart now under Joe Biden. Things can get better. They have to get better. People have to start getting out there and, like I said, working from the ground up. Getting involved. I cannot stress this enough. So I will end tonight's podcast with just the statement. And if it just reaches one person, I've accomplished my goal here tonight. I'm going to tell you what one of my sergeants told me. I'm not going to name his name on here. But I carry this every day with me. I've carried this with me almost with everything I do daily. He said to me one time when I was going through a really bad part in my life, he said, Charles, sometimes even in the worst state of mind, in the worst situation that you can be in, you can find one good thing in there. You gotta hunt the good stuff. You can find one good thing out of any bad situation. You just gotta hunt the good stuff, and you gotta look for it really hard. At the time, I thought that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But as I've matured and has gained more wisdom, that's a very true statement. So I will leave everyone tonight, whoever watches this podcast, with that little bit of information. Maybe, just maybe, you can apply that to your life and try to go out there and all of these bad things that we hear every day and find one good thing by hunting the good stuff. I am Charles Nash. This has been another episode of Political Theater. I hope people are watching. If you want to leave a comment, please do. We're on Facebook, we're on Rumble, and we are on YouTube. Thank you, and have a good night.